Good morning, Joy Nook Book Club, and I want to welcome you back to another Saturday with me for another author interview. I am so excited about having, I know y'all probably say, Allenia, you say you're excited about everybody that comes on here, but I am because I can be, right? I'm telling you, y'all, we are having some good authors. And today isn't even stopping it. So I want to make sure we get into all of the juicy bits and things with this book. Today we are going to be talking to the author of Behind Closed Doors. Look at that. That's a beauty, y'all. Y'all know I'm all about a cover. So, looking at the cover, you already know it's fire, okay? Fire. I did not, I'm telling you, did not put the book down. Kid you not, Allenia was sitting up there. I had to tell myself, girl, go take a shower because it was getting so good. I was holding it, sitting up there, pouring my tea. I'm like, oh Lord, I'm gonna mess up. Let me go, let me fix my tea. And then I'm like, okay, no, no, no. I'm gonna go to this, I'm gonna go to this part, and then y'all, that's exactly what I did. I kid you not, this book was so good. And the picture on the front, I'm going to tell you right now without spoiling anything. This thing is going to blow, okay, poof, your mind with the cover and then the content, okay? Because we always look at um, Christian fiction as being soft, okay? And sometimes soft is not what we need, and soft is not reality. And in Behind Closed Doors, our author for today, Lakisha Johnson, has took taken. Okay, we're gonna make sure we use proper English on this podcast, y'all. But she has taken a hard topic and a topic that we don't talk about with in the church. It is something that is quiet. I think now some are coming out and saying, "Hey, this is going on," but this is a topic whether in the church or outside of the church. It isn't something that we touch. We don't breach it. We um, we don't look at it with the same fervor and fever as we do if it was flipped. And I don't want to go into the whole topic because I want to be able to talk about it. But I'm telling you, there are things in our life that we need to address. There are things that happen around us that we need to address. And Lakeisha did this without any reservations in this book. And let me tell you something right now, if you're looking for Christian fiction that is clean, 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 like I said in the beginning, it's soft. This is not for you at all. But if you're looking for something real, something that you can see, oh my goodness, that could happen around me, and to someone that I know, then I'm telling y'all, this is the book for you. This is the book right here, okay? And before we even get into her bio, I want to make sure that I give a shout out to today's sponsor, which is Events and Creations by Nikki. Events and Creations, and that's creations with a K. Call Events and Creations by Nikki for all of your creative needs. They host, plan, and design any event or celebration you desire. They also create custom made designs for apparel, cups, floral arrangements, decorum, jewelry, and waist beads. Y'all, I have mine, but don't judge me. Y'all already know, don't judge me. I use mine for decorations. I don't use it for the intensive purposes that is supposed to show you your weight, okay? No, we're not going to do that because I got coronavirus quarantine on me, all right? Working that out. You can reach a member of the Creations team at 443-876-1548 or send an email to event and that's creations with a K by Nikki at gmail.com. And their motto is, if you have a vision, let's create it. All right, y'all, let's get into her bio. All right, and you already know, I am not going to read the whole entire thing. It will be in the description box. You will be able to read everything, okay, about her. And you'll be able to get all of her contact information. But let me tell you a little bit about Lakisha. Lakisha has been writing since 2012 and has penned more than 25 novels, devotionals, and journals. Okay? You can find topics of faith, abuse, marriage, love, loss, grief, losing hope, etc., on all of the pages of many of her books. Lakeisha is she is a author. She is also a wife of 22 years, a mother of two, co-pastor of Macedonia MB Church in Hollywood, Mississippi. Okay, y'all, I told y'all I was getting y'all some authors from places and stations. Okay, she is not playing. When I tell you she is not playing in this book at all. I am so excited to be able to present Lakisha Johnson to you. She writes from her heart and doesn't take credit for what God does. Because you were a strip, if you were to strip away everything, you'll see that Lakisha is simply a woman who boldly, unapologetically, and gladly loves and works for God. So I have the pleasure and the honor to be able to drop the mic to our special guest, and she has a little guest with her, y'all. Her grandbaby. Look at the beautiful baby, y'all. See, this is what I'm talking about. Real people doing real things, y'all. Okay, she's coming as who she is, okay? Nothing less but the best. So I am dropping the mic to Lakisha Johnson.
Hey, I'm so happy to be here. Please excuse, I have my granddaughter in my office with me today. And this is the perfect time for her to have hiccups. But I am so glad to be here with you all today on Joy Nook. I'm excited. I'm always excited when I get to meet new readers, new supporters. So I'm happy to be here. And as Allenia has said, I am a Christian fiction author, but I don't write like most Christian fiction authors. I write for imperfect people. So in any book that you may read of mine, you may find a little bit of cursing, you may find a little bit of sex, you may find brokenness, you may find all of those different things, because those are the type of things that we as Christians go through. We go through those things daily, and that's what I write about. Because writing for me is a part of my ministry, and I don't take it lightly. So when God gives me a subject, the majority of these subjects that I write about, I have not actually personally dealt with, like domestic violence or sexual molestation or postpartum depression. I haven't dealt with those things, but those are the type of conversations that we have to have in the church. And behind closed doors is also one of those conversations that we have to have. Because we don't talk about it often. And if you've noticed, there's been a uptrend of pastors and preachers and evangelists and bishops and all those things committing suicide because they find themselves on the receiving end of pain or depression, and they don't know how to deal with it, and they don't have people around them they don't think they can trust, even though they do. They feel like they don't. So this is why this book was so important to pen behind closed doors. So I'm going to read a chapter. I'm going to try to read a chapter of this through Haley's hiccups. I'm going to try to read a chapter of Behind Closed Doors, and for you all to get a better understanding of this book without giving too much away. Now, what I'm reading is in the book is dated May 8th, 2020, and it's Layden having a conversation with his pastor. And the chapter reads, hey, are you okay? I've called your name twice. My apologies, man. I say, standing to greet my friend and spiritual father, Pastor Clifton Rogers. You were zoned out. Dude, what happened to your eye and lip? Dang, bro, you doing MMA now? If MMA is a code name for Tasha, then yeah. Tasha hit you? Man, she came to the church yesterday drunk and attacked me and Candace. The redecoration of my office was her. Thank God there weren't a lot of people here to witness it. Where is she? She was arrested, and they were only going to let her sober up, but she acted such a fool. They ended up charging her with disorderly conduct. Man, what? The last time, the last time we talked 6 months ago, you told me there were problems, but y'all were working through them. I did, and truthfully, I downplayed a lot of things because I wanted my marriage to work for the sake of Lael. I admit, however, like I said, things had gotten worse, especially the arguing and fighting. Physical fighting, I glare at him. No, Leighton. Man, why didn't you come to me before things reached this point? I kept believing it'd all get better. I mean, people go through problems every day and bounce back. Then time will go on, another week, month, and year will pass with us still playing the part and becoming more and more toxic. Things can only get better if you put forth the effort to get help, because there are some things you can't do on your own. Leighton, you're like a brother to me, and it's only right I treat you like one. This means I'm about to lay my pastoral mantle down for a minute. I'm highly disappointed in you. I don't care how toxic a relationship becomes. It's never okay to put your hands on anybody. I don't care if you're a man or a woman. When things reach that point, it should be game over without a second thought. You should know this. You don't think I do? I push away from my desk and stand. I apologize for raising my voice. Pastor Cliff, I have to live with the embarrassment of what I've allowed myself to become in all this. And you can't be more disappointed in me than I am with myself. I can even look at my image in the mirror because I'm ashamed of who I am around Tasha. It's like I'm a different person, a person I don't recognize or like. Why now? He questions. What happened to solidify putting an end to things? I'm tired, mentally, physically, and emotionally tired. However, the final straw was hearing Lael yelling in her bedroom. I went to the door and she had all of her dolls sitting up beside her bed and she's going to town. Didn't I tell you to shut up? Don't talk back to me, and on and on. I asked her why she was talking to the dolls like this, and you know what she said? It's the way me and her mom talk to each other. Wow. That did something to me because I never saw my mom and pops argue like Tasha and I do. Lately, it's every freaking day, and it seems like she feeds off the negativity or enjoys seeing me out of character. I don't understand. Yet here I am trying to save face because we preach marriage like it's a sin to be single. Pastor, I'm tired and I failed my baby. Layden, I'm saddened. It's not just at you, but it's society too. We as men, especially men in ministry, have become groomed to believe there's a certain image we have to portray and it's killing us. We put up a smokescreen of happiness to appease deacons, board members, congregation, and peers. And for what? We show up dressed up to appear fine-tuned and well put together. But behind closed doors, we're living in pure hell. This applies to women too. But we stay in relationships way past their expiration dates because we've grouped ministry with marriage. We think it looks better to be married as a pastor over being single. Dude, your anointing isn't tied to a relationship, and neither is God's call on your life. I heard a pastor say once, the plans God has for us may involve a relationship, but they do not evolve around a relationship, meaning your anointing isn't destroyed by divorce. I know, but somewhere in the back of my mind, I thought staying was better for Lael. How? Dude, I'm going to say this in the most loving way possible. That's bullshit. Forgive me, Lord, for my language. Y'all are doing more damage to her mentally than anything. When we were small, we were afraid of monsters in our closets. Yet your daughter is being raised to be afraid of y'all because neither of you know how to communicate without raising your voices or your hand. A child deserves a happy household, even if it means two separate houses. This isn't you, Leighton, and right now I don't know whether to punch you or pray for you. Can you start with prayer? I've beat myself up enough about this. He comes over and places his hand on my head, and for a few minutes, he doesn't say anything. God of redemption and grace, I come before your throne tonight for my brother Leighton. Father, you're the one he needs at this very moment to heal what he cannot. Lord, you know the sunken place he's in, and it's one only you can get him out of. Forgive him for his transgressions, his wrongdoings, and even the mistakes. Forgive him for not turning to you sooner, and forgive him for patching what he should have given you to fix. Father, guide him along the way you will have him to go. Give him clear and precise instructions to follow, what you will have him to say and where you will have him to go. God, he's your son, and at this moment he needs his father, a father who will reprimand him for his actions, then restore him, a father who won't allow his anger to burn against his child for long, but he'll abolish the evil and abide in him. Father, we understand there are consequences to every action, but don't draw your hand away. For I come before you like David in Psalm 61, crying, oh God, listen to my cry and hear my prayer. From the ends of the earth, I cry to you for help when my heart is overwhelmed. Lead me to the towering rock of safety, for you are my safe refuge, a fortress where my enemies cannot reach me. Hear it today, Father, and help. Help my brother today be who you've called him to be. Help my brother today to be free from the evil trying to smother the fire of you within him. Help my brother today, God. He needs you. Use me to be what he needs to not be there. Hear this prayer and come. In the name of Jesus, I pray. Amen. I lean forward and cover my face to prevent tears from falling. Don't cover your face, Pastor Cliff tells me. We have to get away from the notion crying makes men weak. Truth is, unhealthy coping methods makes men weak. Truth is, unhealthy coping method is what makes us weak. Brother, you've been going through hell, and even if it's partly your fault, you can still cry through it. Sometimes you have to cry just to make it through the crisis. A sound erupts from me, and he pulls me into a hug. After a few minutes, I'm able to form words. Thank you. I This is a reading from Behind Closed Doors. This is a chapter between Layden and his pastor, Pastor Cliff, as he's dealing with the things that's happening in his life behind closed doors. Again, this book was penned because this is a topic that has to be had in the church. This is a topic that needs to be had, especially between ministry leaders. This is a topic that needs to be had with every member of the church, because we tend to want to put up a smoke screen sometimes to make it think that our life is all good when we're going through more hell behind closed doors than we are. We seem to think that a pastor has to show themselves as being without fault, without blemish, without any of these things. And we find ourselves, and I know because I'm in ministry, but we find ourselves putting up this smoke screen. And then when we figure out that we're in over our heads, sometimes it's too late. So behind closed doors is one of these things, these topics that we have to have in the church, because too many people are suffering in silence, because we don't want people to pity us. We don't want people to think that we're less than who we are. We don't want people to think that we don't have it all together, when the truth is we don't. Without God, many of us would be failures. Without God, many of us will find ourselves with our back against the wall. Without God, many of us will find ourselves invalid. But God didn't call us because we're perfect. He called us because we were perfect for the position that we're in. He called us because we were perfect for the assignment. And if we keep putting up these things, these walls, and we keep putting out this false narrative that preachers and pastors don't have issues, then we're setting us up for failure, and also the people that we're called to minister to. So I pray that this book is eye-opening for those, not only in ministry, but in situations where they're feeling like they have to keep it secret because they don't want people to know, or people to pity them, or people to look at them differently. So we think that we have to do these things behind closed doors. So I hope that this book helps. I hope that this book heals. I hope that this book restores, and this book redeems us to know that we don't have to keep things behind closed doors, because when we do, we find ourselves being in over our head.
Woo! I told y'all. I told y'all this is good. I mean, good. Y'all, let me tell you something. Who you are hearing right now on her Instagram page, let me tell you something. She has these segments, and she gets on there. She'll be like, "Dear sis, y'all, look, I be scrolling. Then as soon as I hear dear sis, I stop because I'm gonna listen. Because let me tell you something. To hear it come from someone that is leading, that speaks volumes, because so many people go to church and they think that the leadership is perfect,
Right.
but they're human.
Right.
And I think we forget that. I think we forget that so much. And then when something happens, all of a sudden it's like, well, that's not a Christian.
Right.
Okay, well, then
Right.
what is a Christian? Because, so I love the fact that you dealt with such a topic.
Thank you.
Y'all, we gonna get into it. I know y'all saying, okay, Allenia, stop talking and answer questions, because I know you got some good questions. But first and foremost, I know y'all noticed that I didn't read in the beginning. I didn't read in the beginning, and then I was like, I need to read something. But guess what she did? She read exactly what I was going to read in the beginning. So guess what, y'all? She did it. She did my job. And that is how, when you know things are right, that's how things work. So, Lakisha, I'm going to start backwards
Okay.
because I am noticing y'all writers are getting me lately, getting me. You are now the third writer that I am now starting from the end and working my way back.
Okay.
And I'm like, okay, they blowing my mind here. They're blowing my mind. And I want to ask you, what made you end the book the way that you did?
Most times, when people write, they automatically write a happily ever after.
Mhm.
And by this being Christian fiction and this being a part of ministry for me and living life, I
Yeah,
know that not
yeah.
everything ends in happily ever after. And even though this is a fiction book and most people pick up books because they want to get away from what they're dealing with,
Mhm.
I take Christian fiction again as part of my ministry. So I want to write where it's relatable, where it's reachable, and where it actually it's actually somebody who may be going through the same situation can say, okay, but this didn't end in a happily ever after, and these people still survived.
Mhm.
So I wanted it to end it this way, because I want people to know that no matter what you go through, no matter what you're dealing with, even though
Yeah.
it may not end the way you've seen it in fairy tales on TV, that you're
Mhm.
still able to survive what doesn't end in happily ever after. So
Right.
for me, ending this like that was that, because dealing with all they had to deal with, it was the only way to end the book. So
Mhm.
I mean, yeah, I could have wrote it where things worked, things, all these things happened, and
Right.
it was good. But the reality is sometimes things end this way.
Right. Right. And I thought you did an excellent job, because I was not expecting that. I was like, no, she didn't. I was like, oh, I
And
just
you always have to expect the unexpected, especially when you're reading one of my books, because I don't want it to be figured out 5 pages in. So
right.
you have to be expecting some type of twists and turns when you
Hmm.
read one of my books.
Oh, y'all, you gonna get all twisted. You're gonna be like, no, you're gonna say, when you say it, you're gonna be like, oh, that Allenia. Because I'm telling you, when it happened, I said, oh, real. No, she didn't.
Hmm.
Y'all, I said it just like that. Another thing that you did that was very different was the what made you go through the court process so in detail like you did. Because I mean, you were saying stuff, I know it because I have law enforcement. I married law
Hmm.
enforcement. I have a daughter that's in law enforcement, so I understand the court system. But what made you put it in here like you did?
I think it fit. Now,
Okay.
I didn't understand the court system at all. So writing this book, I had to, with every book I do research, but with
Right.
this one I had to dig deep. I mean, I was all on YouTube listening to trials
I
and
bet.
researching the
Right.
language and the jargon, because I'm like, oh, I think this is what they say, so
Right.
I wanted it to be real and
Mm-hmm.
relatable. So I had to research this, but I thought that when I initially started writing behind closed doors, that was one of the things that I wanted to write. And of course, like I said, it was hard. So sometimes I was like, I wonder if this even worth it. But it was, because
Right.
I wanted the full effect of this book from, beginning to end, to know,
Mm-hmm.
there's consequences for your actions, even regardless if you're a pastor or a first lady, there's some consequences for your actions. So, and I thought that it added a deeper touch so that
Yes.
you could get the full feeling of the characters in order to
Mm-hmm.
be able to go through that trial. And
Mm-hmm.
so, and I just felt like it fit within the context of this story.
It was heavy, y'all. It's heavy. Okay. Now, don't do what I do. Like, normally I go to someone's book, I look at the cover, then look at the back, I go to the table of contents, I skim me through, and then I read. No, she didn't give that to you, yo. She broke this down into people, okay? People in
Mm-hmm.
here. So each person that is like a main character, that is the flow you're seeing. Almost, it's like a week almost. Is
Right.
it it's
Right.
a week of time that we're going through in the life of this couple and the things that happen. But one of the things that I notice, and from the beginning, middle, and end, this small character played such a huge, voluminous part in the life of this family, and that's Lael.
Mm-hmm.
And yet she didn't have parts like Leighton and Tasha did. What made you write her the way that you did in the book?
Because oftentimes we think children aren't paying attention, or
Mm-hmm.
we think
Yes.
that they aren't as savvy as we are when it comes
Mm-hmm.
to adult issues. So I wanted to bring, because she did play a major part, even though she wasn't a major character. She
Right.
played a major part because she was in the house.
Mm-hmm.
And by her being this age, especially in the beginning of the book, when he walks in and hears her, hollering at her dolls, she played a major part. So I wanted
Yes.
to include her, because one, readers will want to know, how,
Mm-hmm.
things affected her, how it ended. But most times we don't see, the effect that we're doing to children. And it
Mm.
is not until, we look back on things and say, or they say something when they're older to
Right.
say, I was 5, but I remember this. And you thinking that they're
Right.
5, and you send them to their
Yes.
room, and just because they didn't see it, they don't remember it, or they don't hear it, and they do. So I
Mm-hmm.
wanted her to be not so much as a major character, but I wanted her to be seen, so that people who are going through the situation can know, number one, that this affects not only the people
Right.
who's actually going through it, the adults, but it also affects the children that's listening too. And number two, that we are causing this as a generational curse to keep going,
Mm.
to every person in there. So
Yes.
she had to be included for that particular reason.
Yes.
And um, because again, the children play a major part. They may not be the ones who is getting the pain inflicted, but they're still being handed pain.
Right.
And we sometimes don't understand that until we see them grown and going through the same thing we went through. So
Right. Right.
she had to be a part of this.
Oh, and you masterfully did it, because it seemed like every shift that occurred was because of her.
Right.
And I'm like, get it, go ahead, Lyle. And the one that got me, the conversation, and I wanted to talk about that. The conversation at the end, when she's talking to her mother, and her mother says, will I see you again? Why did you write it the way that you did? Because that thing, I'm getting chills talking about that, what was said.
Right.
Just Mm.
because in her mind, she knew that, I want to see her, but I don't want to see her again. So
Mhm.
she knew that so that part for me was, again, unexpected
Yes.
but relatable, unexpected but real, because it was up to her. She
Mhm.
asked her. She didn't ask Layden, can I see her again? She didn't ask him. She asked her,
Yes.
and she was honest, because
She
she said,
was.
and she gave her honest answer, and because she needed her to know at that particular moment. She needed her to know just how much this has affected my life, and just how
Mm.
much. Doesn't mean I don't love you, doesn't
Right.
mean that, because she did in the same way when she saw her and she ran to her, because that's her mom. She
Right.
loved her,
Right.
but as far as, can I see you again, she gave her an honest answer.
Yo, I'm telling you, when you read that part, you're going to read it twice because you're used to children, especially when it comes down to their mamas. Because I
Mm-hmm.
know how I am about my mama.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care how mad I am at my mama. When I was young, I'd be so mad at her, but let her come in that room. I'd be like,
Right.
you want to be
Right.
with your mother.
Right.
And we actually, my parents were foster care parents. So I always wondered, like, hey, the children have such a nice life here. Why is it that they're trying so badly to get back to chaos?
Mm-hmm.
And my mother said, because it's their parent. Who
Right.
doesn't want to be with their mother? Who
Right.
doesn't want to be with their father? No matter the circumstance.
Right.
But the way that you wrote this ending with Lael, it shows how much, how empowered she felt to be able to say that
Right.
and not feel she did not feel guilty because girlfriend skipped away. She
Absolutely.
skipped away. Yo,
Absolutely.
she didn't walk. She skipped away.
And was okay, and was
And
okay
was,
with it.
yes,
You asked, I answered it. I'm okay with it now. I got what
yes.
I needed. So
I
that's
got
what I got what I needed. So, that's essentially what it was. She got what
yes.
she needed. And when she got what she needed, just like us, when we're satisfied, when we want
Hmm.
something, we get it, it satisfies us. For her, it was the same thing. She needed something, she got it, it satisfied her, and she skipped away.
She, yo, and I said, you know what? we need to be like Lyle and be like, skip away, say it, drop it, skip away.
Skip away. Absolutely.
And I did. I loved. I felt like I did feel like there could be another like a sequel from this
Hmm.
because of the fact of Leighton going through what he's going through
Right.
and being, you know, in ministry. That right there, I was just like, I wonder if she's gonna take this someplace else with this because
And I
he's
might.
going through he's going through therapy.
Right. And I might, because some people need to see, after the after effect. They need to see after this.
Right,
What happens after this. So
right.
I might, and that's why I usually like to give some time to go to, because I do use dates. I use dates in this particular book.
Yes.
So I like to have some time to go, maybe 6 months to a year, and then
Hmm.
maybe do a follow up so that people will see.
Girl, let me tell you something. My director of business, she read the book and she was like, it's good. It's good. You need to read it, and I'm buying more of her books. So she's already started buying your books. I just want you to know that.
I appreciate her.
Already started buying your books. She's just like, I love her writing. So another thing that I wanted to ask you about is the relationship because Mother's Day is tomorrow. So I'm going to say happy Mother's Day to everyone. But it's interesting because you brought up generational curses
Hmm.
and there is a theme between Tasha and her mother. But I noticed you did not emphasize much. Her parents had a part,
Mm-hmm.
but they weren't the emphasis, although they were the foundation for this behavior.
Mm-hmm.
Why did you write them in less of an importance than you did Tasha and Leighton?
One of the reasons is because they weren't the main characters.
Okay.
But I wanted to touch on her relationship with her parents because they
Yeah.
played a major part.
Yeah.
So and who knows, maybe that'd be a pull another book from this particular one. Who knows? But I
Right.
wanted to touch on them because I wanted people to see how generational curses affect family. And
Got you.
we only think when we think of generational curses, we only think of like certain things, but there's generational poverty, there's generational sickness, there's
Yes.
generational all those things that carry over from generation to generation, and
Right.
it's on our bloodline. So
Right.
so we can't even say generational. It's just a bloodline curse. And
Mm-hmm.
those type, because if you were to go back from any issues that we tend to see in families, if you
Yes.
were to go down the bloodline, you'll probably be able to trace it back to when it began,
Yeah. You're
because
right.
that's what
Mm-hmm.
happens. And so in here,
Mm.
I wanted to touch on the relationship between her and her mother, even though, but I didn't want to take away from the story of Layton and Tasha. And I
Right.
felt that if I included more of her parents, then it would have overshadowed the
Mm-hmm.
real issue in the book, which was Layton and Tasha.
Right. Right. And y'all, I'm telling you, when you read it, you're gonna be mad. You're gonna be mad at the mama and the daddy. But so I'm just go ahead and tell you
Right.
about it because a lot of I think you know when you hide things, push things under the rug,
Mm-hmm.
is it really pushed? Because
Right.
that dirt can start seeping out from underneath.
Absolutely.
Because the rugs
Absolutely.
start moving, y'all. So you have to
Absolutely.
remember that. Yeah, you have to remember that. I think the one thing that I noticed that Tasha, she never took ownership. She never took ownership, and not even with Lyell.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was very complex because of her relationship with her mother,
Mm-hmm.
and then now she has a child of her own.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that she did things, you could tell there was healing that needed to be done for sure.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. Healing needed to be done. So the next question that I wanted to ask you is who was the toughest character to write for in this book for you?
Um, Tasha for sure.
Okay.
Um, and but I would say the entire book was a tough one, mainly because I've never been through it.
Okay.
So I've never been through domestic violence.
Mm-hmm.
So the entire book was a hard book to write, only because I didn't want to miss anything, or
Got
I didn't
you.
want it to be to the point where I'm guessing this is what people feel or stuff like that. So I think, but Tasha for sure, because you
Mm-hmm.
actually have to go into the mind of a person, especially when you're writing.
Yes.
And so, in order
Yes.
to be able to know, so I pray about, okay, God, you giving me this message. Now I need you to actually, let's get down in this thing.
Mm-hmm.
So because I don't want to miss something within the book. And even though I may not have covered everything, I may not have covered every
Right.
emotion or
Right.
dealt with
Mm-hmm.
everything. I wanted to be able to know that I was reaching um, her. So
Got you.
for her, I think for the most part, she was the toughest to write.
Got you. Yeah, I when I was reading through it, I was just like, oh man, how is she doing this? But as you said, you had to do some research.
Mm-hmm.
And when you don't have an emotional connection or a previous connection, whether it's someone that you know or you've been through it yourself, it is a little tougher to write because I thought you did very well with the compassionate points of it, because I am a victim of domestic violence. So some of what was said and done,
Mm-hmm.
I was just like, you were spot on. You were spot on them not being accountable, placing the blame, cover the other person covering it up, and what I did like is that you did not make him, although he felt weak,
Right.
you didn't make him weak.
Right.
And what made you write him, Leighton's character, like that?
Because I think that it's the typical reaction in a
Mm-hmm.
relationship.
Yeah.
So again, I don't know. I'm not a man, so and I haven't been through it, but I felt that it was a typical reaction, especially with him, one being a pastor.
Mm-hmm.
And then him feeling like that, things had to be, a certain way. They had to be a certain
Right.
order. So I think that, so I wanted to pull from that. So I
Mm-hmm.
didn't want to make it seem like that he was being walked over.
Right.
But I wanted him to be, real
Right.
and again,
Gotcha.
relatable. So,
Mm-hmm. And he was.
mm-hmm,
He really was. And he actually took us to, I like how the interaction between him and the pastor.
mm-hmm,
That interaction was so real. Like, it was, because you had that confidant, you have that someone that you go to that can tell you, right now you jacked up,
right,
or you're a hot mess, a hot flaming
absolutely,
mess with gasoline poured all over it, because my sister girls will tell me that,
mm-hmm,
and I'll tell them that quick.
right.
And he had that, and I loved how you allowed him to have someone. um with Leighton, I noticed that you didn't write his parents in there, at all. What made you decide to not? Because he is operating in behaviors, but you didn't write anything about his parents.
I didn't want it to overshadow. I didn't want it
Okay,
to overshadow the actual storyline. So I didn't
gotcha.
want to include, too many other characters, even though I could have included his parents, but then you would have to have the whole dynamic of, how would his parents react, and
Right,
then
gotcha.
conversations with them and stuff. So I didn't want to include. I included Tasha's parents because it played a part.
Mm-hmm.
And when people read it, they'll understand. But I
Right,
didn't want to include them to take away from the overall message of the book.
right. um and the conversation, so that leads me into the conversation between, in the courtroom at the end, when the mother wants to see Lyell. That conversation was heavy.
Yes,
like
yes,
like
because she got a part in this too. And
mm-hmm.
again, like we were saying,
Yes.
Tasha didn't ever take ownership. Her mother didn't either. And
Right.
so for Leighton, his whole thing was, at this point, I have to protect her. I hadn't
Right.
been doing it all this time. She's 6. For these years, I've let her down and haven't protected her like I was
Right.
supposed to. Now it's time. So again, and that was one of the conversations that had to be had too. So, and that's another thing that, maybe when I do a follow up to this, that we'll have that in there, with
Mm-hmm.
how things work out between them, her parents and Layel,
Right.
because yeah, at
Right.
this point, like he said, you need help too.
He sure
And
did.
before I allow my daughter to be, because you
Mm.
raised this daughter that I'm married to, and now you want me to put my daughter into the same situation? No,
Right.
no, no. So he had to. That was a conversation where he had to say no. I got to put
Right.
my foot down, because for far too long I've allowed it to go on, and I haven't
Right.
protected her. And
Right.
now it's time that I do.
That I'm telling y'all, heavy conversations, because we I think, and what this book also says, don't feel obligated You have no obligation when it comes down to the protection of your child.
Right.
No obligation to the other family.
Right.
The only obligation you have is to your child. And I think I think, and I will say that sometimes it is a cultural thing
Mm-hmm.
that we think that, well, I want, even though the father act like that, I still want the grandparents to be in the child's
Right.
life.
Right.
And, and people talk about that because I've heard it. Um, not per se in my family, but I've heard people say, I can't believe they not letting the child come see me. I'm their grandmother too, just because her and the son not, and it's different when you're doing it out of spite,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
but it's different when you're doing it out of right.
Right.
You know,
Because
I,
you know, grandparents and stuff can be toxic too.
yes,
And sometimes you gotta put a fine line between all of it. Daddy may not, he may be a piece of crap too, but how is grandmama and granddaddy?
right.
Because I don't want them. I don't want this to be, if I'm, especially if I'm trying to change the dynamic of
Hmm.
whatever it is. I can't allow that.
Right,
And I have to, and again, like you said, I'm not obligated
right,
for my child just because you
right.
have blood flowing through them. I'm not obligated to put my child in harm's way because you
Hmm.
have the same DNA. So
Right.
yeah.
No, and that's in this book has so much power. I mean, period power. I love it.
Thank
I'm
you.
telling you, Lakeisha. Woo! This is y'all. I'm going to make sure I give Lakeisha some time so that she can tell you where you can find her. I want to also give her time to tell you where you can find this book and if she wants to tell us about any other book that she has, because y'all heard me say 25 novels, devotionals, and journals. Okay. And the great thing in the book is the back of the book. She gives you where you can find the different stories, and I love that. And gives you a little summary so that you can read it and know what you want to, what book you want to
Right.
get next. She don't make it hard. Now, see, if y'all make it hard, she didn't make it hard. Not at all. And before we allow her to do that, I want to make sure I thank our sponsor for today. And today's sponsor is Events and Creations with a K by Nikki. Call Events and Creations by Nikki for all your creative needs. They host, plan, and design any event or celebration you desire. They also create custom made designs for apparel, cups, floral arrangements, decorum, jewelry, and waist beads. And I already told y'all about my waist beads, so don't judge me, all right? Do not judge me. You can reach a member of the creations team at 443-876-1548 or send an email to events and creations with a K by Nikki at gmail.com. And their motto is, if you have a vision, let's create it. So, Lakeisha, can you please tell my audience where they can find you? And if you want to tell us about anything that you have going on, please, this is your time, girlfriend. Do tell.
Yeah, they can find any of my books on Amazon. My website is authorlakishajohnson.com. I'm on I think all social media platforms. Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. I'm on TikTok as Author Lakisha, where I do my 60-second vlogs that you see on Instagram called Dear
I
Sis.
love it. I love it.
I'm also on so yeah, you can find me on Instagram. I'm Keisha Johnson. Twitter, it's underscore Keisha Johnson. So everything is generally my name or either author Lakisha. But you can find all of my books on Amazon. And I'm currently, I do have, I think I have 29 books now. Um, with the and I'm currently working on a new one. And I was hoping to have it out by the end of April, but so many things, with work
Mm-hmm.
and this new grandbaby that won't let me be great today. So,
You did
so
fine.
many things going on. So I'm hoping to have it released probably by the middle of May. The new book that I'm working on. So, and I also have, and again, I touch on many different topics. I
Mm-hmm.
have I'm Not Crazy, that's dealing with a first lady who's dealing with postpartum depression.
Mm.
I have Dear God, that's dealing with Jamie, who was sexually molested by her stepfather, who's a
Oh.
pastor. I have 2:32 a.m. that's dealing with grief.
Mm.
And so I touch on different topics. And I hope and pray that with every book it reaches those it
Yes.
needs to reach.
Yes.
And I pray, and because for me, again, writing isn't just for something to do. Writing is a part of ministry.
Ministry. Mm-hmm. Yes, it is. And Lakisha, you are doing such a thing. You
Thank
are
you.
doing such a thing. I'm telling you, y'all, I am going to go out reading something, okay, to y'all that I wanted to definitely make sure that you hear. And then we're going to go ahead and let y'all have y'all Saturday. And I appreciate y'all being with me because y'all got to get ready for y'all Mama's Day. Although this book is fictional, there are a lot of men and women who are quietly suffering with abuse. Behind closed doors far too long, people, society, embarrassment, and bad teaching have taught you to hush, deal with it, or sweep it under the rug. In ministry, pastors have been so widely idolized to the point they feel as though if they show human emotions, they'll be cast aside. No more. At this very moment, if you need help, get it. Seek a licensed therapist because therapy isn't a bad thing. You deserve to be healed, happy, and whole. You deserve to be free. You deserve to be you. Start with this prayer Jeremiah 17:4. Heal me, O Lord, and I shall be healed. Save me, and I shall be saved, for you are my praise. Now get help, and while you do so, I pray your faith does not fail you. Author Lakisha Johnson. Lakisha, thank you so much. Nook Club, thank you for joining us for another author interview. I want all of you mamas out there, all those aunties and nieces, and those who have taken people under their wing as their mama, whether you gave birth to them or not, happy Mother's Day. If
Amen.
you are one that is dealing with the loss of your mother and you are missing her so, so very much, I pray that you find peace on tomorrow, that her memory, you remember the fun things, the funny things that she did or said to you. Sometimes those tough things, and when you think about it, although you thought she didn't know what she was talking about, she knew more than you thought. Because I know
Absolutely.
my mama does. You know, and I want you to take peace in that. Take peace in that. I dare not sit here and say that I understand, but I do want to wish each and every one of you a happy Mother's Day. And to my mama, who I know who will be watching this like she watching the Oprah show or something, because that's she one of my biggest fans, y'all. Happy Mother's Day, mother. I love you so very much. Thank you for being the God fearing woman that you are. I love you to the moon and back. And to my girls, I know y'all gonna treat me real good. All right, ladies, have a wonderful Saturday and peace and blessing.